Okay, so picture this. You're walking down the supermarket aisle, you spot a product labeled probiotic, and, well, your first thought is probably, good for me, right? Maybe even helps with that cough you've had.
Uh-huh. It's almost automatic.
Exactly. But what if that simple word, the one we see everywhere, actually hides a really complex scientific debate and a surprising regulatory picture, too?
Yeah, there's a lot beneath the surface there.
So today we're doing a deep dive into the world of probiotics. We're drawing from a really insightful article by Professor Lin called EU Bans Labeling of Probiotics, and also some great comments from a reader, Elliot, plus other analysis.
Sounds good. It's a topic that definitely needs unpacking.
Our mission here is to sort of unpack the science, or sometimes, the lack of science behind the claims. We want to understand the different rules around the world and really arm you with some critical thinking tools for navigating health products. Let's get into it.
Let's do it.
So Professor Lin has been raising this issue for years now, highlighting that marketers make these huge claims, right? Weight loss, immunity, kidney stuff, even antidepressant.
All sorts of things, yeah.
But these benefits, these so-called probiotic benefits, they've just never been definitively proven. It's almost like a myth that's taken hold.
It really has. And what's fascinating, as you mentioned, is how differently the authorities treat this. Like the European Food Safety Authority, EFSA, they've held a really strict line.
Right, EFSA. Elliot, the reader, pointed this out too. Despite lots of industry lobbying and, looser rules in the US, Japan, Taiwan, Korea,
Mm-hmm.
EFSA's reason is simple. Not enough solid scientific evidence. They won't budge on supporting the probiotic label itself or the health claims.
They're really demanding that high level of proof, which is interesting in itself.
So what does that mean on the ground, like, for shoppers in the EU? Some countries might allow the word probiotic, maybe just to describe a bacterial strain or its history,
Very specific context, yeah.
but they absolutely do not allow any health claims attached to it. And that's where the name itself, probiotic, meaning beneficial to life, becomes the problem, doesn't it?
Right.
Because EFSA isn't convinced.
Exactly. That inherent claim in the name is the sticking point without the proof. And it's strange because, the U.S. is such a household name, it pops up in scientific papers all the time.
Yeah, everyone knows it.
But, and this is crucial, the term probiotic has never been officially defined by any government or major medical or scientific body, ever.
Wow, okay. That lack of a formal definition seems like a pretty big gap.
It is. It opens the door for all sorts of interpretations and, frankly, some misleading claims.
So is there any kind of benchmark? Like, what should we be looking for?
Well, if you go back to the FAO and WHO's 2006 report, that really set the standard. It clearly says for something to be called a probiotic and make health claims, it needs live microorganisms
Okay, live one.
in sufficient doses.
What?
And crucially, the makers have to show rigorous scientific proof lab, animal, human studies for the specific health benefits of each specific strain.
Each strain, not just generally probiotics.
Exactly. Strain-specific evidence. It's a high bar, but it's about consumer safety and making sure people aren't misled.
And that brings us back to the EU's strictness, right? Because companies haven't met that high bar for proof.
Correct. ESSA says, nope, you can't use the probiotic label to imply a health benefit. So instead, you'll see things like live cultures, maybe live bacteria, fermented milk, or just yogurt.
Much more descriptive, less claimy.
It strips away that sort of health halo the word probiotic often carries.
Okay, but here's where it gets really interesting. You mentioned the contrast. The US and Taiwan, much less strict.
Oh, yeah. A stark contrast. They allow the probiotic label pretty freely, and they've faced criticism because they allow quite broad health claims, even though technically their own laws often prohibit therapeutic claims for supplements.
So it's a bit of a gray area, or maybe just less enforced. It does make you wonder about influence, doesn't it? Especially when the EU is so firm on the science.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And that reader, Elliot, his comments touched on this objectivity question. You have organizations like ISAPP. They often define probiotics in scientific papers and shape the conversation.
Okay.
But they also actively promote probiotic products. They lobby for lighter regulations. And get this, they're committee members, mostly from the companies actually selling these products.
So it's kind of like the players are also the referees?
That's a good way to put it. It really highlights why critical thinking is so important here. You always have to ask, okay, who's providing this definition or this information, and what might their interest be?
So, just this one word, probiotic, leads us down this whole path. Science, regulations, business interests. It's quite a journey.
It really is.
It's just such a powerful reminder that not all terms mean what we think they mean, especially with health claims, and maybe we need to be better at sort of debunking things we just accept without solid proof.
Definitely. This whole deep dive just encourages us, really, to always question, to look past the marketing buzz and demand good, solid evidence.
Yeah. Makes you think, what other common terms do we just take for granted? What else might need a similar deep dive into the actual science behind it?
That's a great question to keep in mind. Next time you see a bold health claim, maybe pause and ask,
Yeah.
what's the real evidence here? Let that curiosity guide you.